We're afraid of what people will think, or we're afraid we're not good enough, or we're afraid we're too much. And so we hold ourselves back. When we do that, we're muting ourselves. And there are too many people that are muting themselves in the world. And I, for so many years, was one of them. I've discovered the power of unmuting myself, of showing up in the world in a way that is joyfully expressed and boldly alive. That's something that has been so important to me as I've discovered how freeing it is to be unmuted, to unmute our body and to unmute our ideas and to unmute our desires, to unmute ourselves in relationships and at work, and to be our own advocates and to ask for what we want and need. The unmuted life is a life that is fully alive and fully expressed and confident and clear. And to me, it's the only way that I know how to live now. I know what it's like to feel confined and stuck and small and silenced. And I also know what it feels like to be expressed and alive and joyful and present and seen. And it's so much better of a life to be unmuted. And that is what I want to bring you into. Are you ready to unmute yourself? Let's make it happen.
Hey everybody, and welcome to Unmute Yourself. It has been a morning, can I just say? We're really glad that all of you are here. Sometimes there are some tech challenges that happen, like your soundboard decides to do an update right before you do a live show. And you're like, fantastic. So I'm guessing that everyone's had those moments where you're just like, this is how the day's starting? Okay, have you ever, drop in the chat, I have. If you've had those moments where you're like, got it. This is not how I plan to have my day start. I know Natalie's here, Lisa's here, Jim is here, Kelly, so good to have you here. Kelly, you had an awesome panel on your show last week. Really loved that conversation. Meryl, welcome. Oh, shout out to Brian Schulman for recommending you come and check out the show. We've got Tom Doherty here, who is a newly minted docent at the Oakland Zoo in California. Really excited for you, Tom, about that. Jim is here. Jim Glenn is here from Houston, Texas. Let's see. Melinda. Okay, thank you all for making me feel better about this. Tech is great when it works. No kidding. It's so true. That's like what we have to deal with sometimes. Leonard Young. Leonard Young is one of those people who is so kind and so affirming and just sends those random messages during the week that lets you know that he sees you and that he's supporting you. So if you're not connected with him, anybody who's a guest, like who comes on the show, who attends the show, is an awesome human being. And I would encourage you all to connect with each other if you're not already connected. And then feel free to drop in the chat and let us know if you're with us, where you're joining us from. But yeah, some tech issues this morning. So sorry for the delay in getting started, but we are here now. So can take a breath. You know, I think it's interesting, before we get started, before I introduce my guest today, something I want to mention that some stuff I've been going through myself is just the importance of recognizing that May is Mental Health Month and that everyone struggles with stuff. And it's kind of like all of us are walking around with our struggles like hidden under a rock and we hope no one notices, but everyone's struggling with something. And I find that it's more helpful when we actually talk about it and when we let people know and we say, hey, I'm struggling a little bit. I'm feeling like I'm in a bit of a funk. I feel like I'm a little bit down. I was feeling that way on Friday and I reached out to a couple friends and it made such a difference to have their support. And one of my friends texted me back and she said, don't you ever unmute yourself around me. And don't you ever mute yourself around me. She said, don't mute yourself. I'm here to help. You can call me or FaceTime me whenever you need me. And then she came over on Saturday night and we went for a walk and had dinner together and hung out in the hot tub and had breakfast the next day and took a walk the next day and just connected. And it was so good. And it was a reminder to me about how much we need each other and about how much when we're struggling that we do not have to do it alone. We do not have to do it alone, but it does take a little bit of courage for us to text that person or call that person or just let that person in our life know, hey, you're like, I need you right now. And that's okay. So I've been dealing with that myself personally. And so I know I'm not the only one that's dealing with something like that in my life. And so I just wanted to validate that for anybody else that might be feeling that way, that you are worthy of getting support and love and help. And so don't be afraid to ask for it. So to get started, what I'd like to do is go to our question that we've been asking at the start of the show, which is, what has been a bright spot for you in the past week? What has been a bright spot for you in the past week? If you want to drop that in the comments and let us know. Yes, better together, Tom. I'm with you. And David Woods. Oh, David, so good to have you here. Maria Rouse, amazing. It's true. It takes a lot of courage to open up to someone or everyone, right? It takes a lot of courage, and it can be a hard thing to do, but it is worth it. So yeah, let us know what has been a bright spot for you. What has been a moment of joy, a glimmer of hope, something that has made you feel grateful. When I think about my bright spot, I was spending time with my friend Natalie this weekend. I mean, that was a major bright spot, for sure. Yeah, I think that was the brightest part. And the weather was beautiful also yesterday. So let us know in the comments what has been a bright spot for you from the past week, a moment of joy, a glimmer of hope, something you appreciate that you're grateful for. Because when we're going through hard things, it's important to pause and remind ourselves, like, there is some good. This is hard, and there's also some good in the midst of this. A filter-filled video chat with Brian Schulman last night. Oh, Tim, that's awesome. Oh, hey, Toby. Driving my son to prom. Just never thought he would be that connected socially. Oh, that's so special, Toby. Oh. Tom, got my docent certification, hat, shirt, and extra goodies. I am now official after 100 hours of training and studying. Holy cow. Kelly, oh, that's so kind of you. I was glad I hopped on. I was like, this is a really intriguing panel of people having a really important conversation. So Kelly has a show. Check out his show. Kelly, if you want to let people know when it is in the comments, that would be amazing. So we can have more people come to that because it's an awesome show. Natalie, my husband and I celebrated our 9th wedding anniversary. Congratulations. We're abundantly blessed. Connie, hey Connie, welcome. Being outside on sunny, good temperature days. It makes such a difference, doesn't it? The weather's nice. It's like, I just feel better about life. Leonard Young, my son is getting married in September. We had his engagement party Saturday. It went very well. We even surprised his fiance. Congrats on that. That's a good feeling. And by the way, when you hear about the goodness in other people's lives, you get to live vicariously through that. So you don't just benefit by sharing your own moment of goodness, your own bright spot. You also benefit from hearing everybody else's. It's like this ripple effect. Kim, welcome, Kim. Girls trip planning meeting on Friday. Year 30 for the trip and such a needed getaway with friends and family. Lots of love and laughter. And then Alex, hey, Alex. The best hospitality customer service I've ever had came from Alex Gillen, taking big steps on my entrepreneur journey. And then Melinda took your first ever RV trip. That's amazing. My friend Natalie, who I spent time with, is going on a 2-month RV trip with her 2 kids and her husband this summer, all across the United States. Super cool. So with that, I think that's a helpful reset to like pause and be like, okay, this is the stuff that's going well in my life. Let me connect to that. I want to mention one more thing before I introduce our guest. Just a shout out to Peekaboo Live, which does the analytics for this show. So when you get invited to these shows and the events and stuff that I do, it's because you're showing up consistently on these lists that are telling me like you want to hear more about what I'm doing and you want to be involved and you want to be in that VIP list of people that find out first. So just wanted to mention that as we get started today. So our guest today has been a friend of mine for 9 years, something like that, for a while. And we live in the same town in Baltimore, Maryland. And I want to introduce you to her. So she's an award-winning craft chocolate maker, creating single origin dark chocolate bars, truffles, drinking chocolate, and spreads in Baltimore, Maryland. And they are by far, I've sent these to people all over the country. I will take people there when they come visit Baltimore. It is the best chocolate, hands down, I've ever had in my life, ever, period, done. She's engaged in collective efforts to support women and family-owned cacao farms and cooperatives through her work. She's an advocate for underrepresented communities throughout the cacao chocolate food chain, gaining visibility and financial independence. She believes freedom is possible through cacao and chocolate and has made this her life's work. She's one of those people, this is an addendum to the bio. She's one of, those people in your life that you spend time with them and you just feel better about yourself, your life, the world, Like, that's how I feel every time I have an interaction with her. And she has a really awesome laugh, as an aside. So without further ado, I want to introduce all of you today to Jinji Fraser.
Hi.
Hi, yay.
Hey, let me do, and it's a part of my technological shortcomings this morning. Let me do a little adjustment. How's that? Are we
It's
good?
great. It's great. We're in my favorite colors today too. Purple and blue are my favorite colors. Which we did not plan at all.
We did not. No. And how unusual. Have you ever seen me wear a color?
No, you're wearing a black shirt all the time.
I wear a black shirt all the time, every day. Black or sometimes a dark gray, just depending on like my mood that day.
Huge difference between those two.
Huge.
So it's just for me today that you were like, I'm going to be on with Rachel. I'm going to wear color.
Even knowing or thinking that there was no video feed, I thought to myself, what would Rachel want in this moment? And I said, lavender. I'm going to put on this t-shirt and this will be good for her. Like, I just thought energetically it would come across, but here I am getting to share it with all of your people.
You know, it's a thing. It's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm so glad you're here. I've wanted to bring you on this show, like, since I started it, because you are somebody who inspires me. You are somebody who selfishly, whose work I benefit from on like a monthly basis. Because truly, I just want all of you to know, like, to tee this up for some people. We'll get into like, we're going to talk about your story, but I just want to tee up for some for some people. Maybe Tim, if we can put the website in the chat so people can check this out. Okay, people, for who likes chocolate, just drop in the chat if you like chocolate. Just say I do, because I need to know this. I need to know who I'm with today. I need to know. There are like the best thing, my favorite thing that you make, I know you know this, peanut butter stuffed fig dipped in a dark chocolate shell. And I don't really have words for it, but it's just the most delicious thing. And then we got 3 truffles when we came on Friday. We got the fresco truffle.
Yeah, I know. Do you remember that when we did it like 2 years ago, I think? But it's like way better this time. But we have done that one before, which is rare for us to repeat a flavor, but that is one.
Of course. And I said it's mint, so Jinji probably didn't have much to do with that one, did she?
Did not. No, that's Jonathan, fully.
I know. And we have some dark chocolate fans here in the chat. And then Alex says chocolate covered pretzels. You do different things with pretzels that are delicious.
Yeah.
So with that, I mean, to get started, one of the things I'm most curious about, people come on the show, I love to hear people's stories of a way that they've muted themselves in some area of their life or their work, whatever. They can pick what it is. And a journey that they've gone on to unmute that, to be bolder, to be more self-expressed in that area. And so would love to hear wherever that question takes you and whatever journey you want to take us on in response to it.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting because for me, I didn't really know that I was muting myself necessarily. Mm-hmm. Getting into the career that I'm in and getting into the work that I'm doing was not the most deliberate of things. You know this, that I did not grow up like with this burning desire to start a chocolate business. No one in my family had ever started a business before. I had no interest in chocolate, like one way or the other. It was very just like take it or leave it for me. Very much grew up Starburst and like 80s kids, Sour Patch Kids. Like that was my life. So getting into this, but I work. Like I'm a good worker and I've always been a good worker. And I found chocolate, which we can talk about that, but like I found chocolate and I just started working. I didn't think much about what I was doing. I didn't think about it's the weirdest thing. Like looking back 10 years now, it's like, what was I thinking? Like what was guiding me through this whole journey? Like I always want to win and I always want to be successful, but like I just had no idea. I had no grounding. It was just really hard work, like starting a business. Um, and it wasn't until years in, probably like the latter half of the 10 years, um, that I really started to look at what I was doing critically and examine it from like an outside looking in, because I finally was in a position where like I had great staff, I had great support, and I could just really look at what I was doing and what I wanted this to be. Did I want it to be anything? Before this, I'd never done anything in my life longer than like 2 or 3 years, so like everything was just so foreign. And then what I started to realize, I just asked for like guidance, just like put it out in the world, like what am I doing, why am I doing this, and how can I make this more purposeful. I became obsessed with working with purpose, living with purpose, and not wasting time. I really became obsessed with that whole concept. And around that time, there was a succession of things that happened. And I should note that before this, I had started doing a lot of travel, learning more about cacao, learning more about origin and like where it comes from, who grows it. Like I had started doing some of that work, mainly because a lifelong dream of mine had been to travel. Like that's something that I did know that I wanted to do. And so I was happy to fold that into what I was doing for work. But this succession of events that I'm talking about, so I had a lunch with my dad. Do you know this story?
I don't think I do. Lunch with Dad. I've not heard the start of a story of that one before. And two things. Tell us who your dad is, like, because I know he's part of the story. And then also for anyone that may not be as familiar, just mentioning what cacao is for people that may or may not know.
Cacao is the fruit from which chocolate derives. So that's where it grows on the tree as a cacao pod. Looks a little bit like a Nerf ball. And it's processed through fermentation, drying, roasting, into eventually what you know as chocolate. That's the quick and dirty of it.
Perfect.
So I was talking to my dad and I asked him out of pure curiosity, I said, where is the last place that Grandpa, so his father, where is the last place that he traveled before he died? Now, this is when I was 2, so this is decades ago. This is not like a right now, like really emotional thing. It was just like curiosity, just figuring out what it was, because I knew he was a photographer by hobby and I knew that he liked to travel. So I was just curious. And my dad responded in a way that would truly change the course of events for till and through today, which is, he said that he went to Guyana, and Guyana is a little country next to Venezuela in South America. And I said, oh, well, that's interesting. Like, why did he go there? And come to find out, my family, the Fraser family, has a land trust in Guyana, which I had you don't know this story, right?
No, like I legit, I'm hearing this for the first time, as everyone else is too. Like,
oh, you're gonna love this. You're gonna die. Like your podcast is about to just like explode. So he says Guyana, and I say, why Guyana? Okay, so there's a Fraser family land trust, and so I asked a little bit more. I said, well, you know, and so apparently he had been corresponding through letters. So this is early 80s or probably actually early 70s, corresponding through letters with a family member that lived there. So he finally got the chance to go and visit this, say, cousin. And it turns out that this land trust is front and center of Guyana's organic cacao growing. I know.
When did you find this out? When did this happen? I need a moment. No, I'm serious. When did this happen?
So this happened, I'm gonna call it 2019. Wow. Let's call it 2019. Early 2019. And I was just completely flabbergasted. Like, what do you mean? First of all, we've been doing this business together for, at that point, like 8 years, and you've never thought to mention. So that's like the first thing, which that's like a whole other like story. But I couldn't believe it. And there wasn't, instantly I thought like, like, I can't believe that like this kind of irony, or like this kind of I just couldn't believe that this was happening. And I never for a second thought that it wasn't this like intentional universal plan. Like I immediately I knew that I was in the pocket. Like somehow everything that I had been doing, which I thought was very like just random, or just I fell into this thing. I tell this story. I fell into this thing, and this like very like kismet time. Like I use all of these words to describe my career. And then all of a sudden it was like, no, like this is for me to do. Like this is actually for me to do. I know that I've had ancestors who did this work. And so just suddenly I felt like, oh, I am now committed. I like charge forth whatever comes. And also like the shop and making chocolate and just that kind of work of it felt very small. Like I then just felt like there's a greater mission and like purpose for me. And I've always had that whisper, like I've always kind of felt that way, but this really just solidified the whole thing. So like that happened. And then before COVID, then I got pregnant with Stokely. And those two things together, I felt like just like a fire to find truth and to speak truth to the power that is this chocolate industry, which is, 80-90 billion-dollar strong, probably more than that at this point. Like really speak truth to that power and find out investigatively, anthropologically, like just find out who belongs here, what this actually is, and how can we empower people to really just feel their place in this machine. Then of course, everything shuts down for a few years, and we're kind of picking up where we left off. But that's where I am today, is just finding ways. I did a lot of writing, like just over the last couple of years too, about this. Was able to connect with some great people and publish some stuff, and I'm just continuing along that way. And I think that that is like the extremely long answer to your question. Like great. Really long answer. But yeah, like that's how I'm choosing to frame my story these days and get the story out.
Well, there's a couple things that I love about this. One is just that there's things in our life, we end up in a certain path and we think it's happenstance, right? And we don't necessarily recognize all the things that have been happening behind the scenes or before we even came on the scene that have set us up and teed us up to do what we're doing. And I think back to like what you just shared about like, oh, this has literally been in my family for generations, like this work, which is an unusual thing to have. You know what I mean? Like you don't talk to, it's not like you're going out every day talking to a stranger and you're like, what do you do? Like, oh, I'm in the chocolate business. This is not like a common thing. I've never met anybody else who does this except for you. And when you have that experience happen, and then when you have a catalytic moment, like you said, your pregnancy, of having this fire inside of you, of getting re-grounded and recentered, and this is why I'm doing what I'm doing, and I'm so clear on it, and it's unequivocal. This is purposeful, and there's an unmuting, there's an emboldening that happens. when we have these catalytic moments happen in our lives. And, I think about, you're bringing this up, I haven't shared this on the show before, but my grandmother, my mom's mom, wanted to be like an opera singer or a doctor. But, she was born in the 20s, I think. And she had 5 kids, so she didn't pursue any of that. And I think about, I'm not a doctor, but the nature of the work that I get to do is in certain ways healing for people. And the music that I get to create as somebody who's like finally at almost 40, like really actually pursuing music in an intentional way, getting to sort of like live out and revisit this dream of a generation past, and recognizing that those seeds get planted well before we even show up, and that we are guided along a certain path that we don't necessarily have an awareness of when it's happening. But we can have a moment of pause where we look back and we're like, oh my gosh, like everything clicks, and we see how it was all working together for us all along.
And then the work is in being patient with it and sitting with it, not rushing it, because as true as it is that the seeds were planted before, is as true that they're content, like it's way past even our lifetime. Like it's all just there. Like we really just have to participate and be positive and participate in our lives, and it'll all click together. Like there's no sense in forcing anything now. I mean, you just have to trust that, it's all just lined up. Yeah. Like that's the being ready for your luck,
Yeah, like the phrase, I don't know when I heard it a couple years ago first, but it's like, well, what is meant for you will not miss you. That.
Oh yeah.
Like trusting.
I love that. Yeah.
That, right?
Yeah.
It's, so I'm curious, and Sidner, for some reason there's a little bit of a delay. It's like it switched. I don't know, something switched with the phone where it's like a little bit delayed. I don't know if it popped off Wi-Fi or something or what, but we'll be good. It's just a little slow-mo.
No,
but
I think I'm still.
It's all right. We can hear you. We can hear you fine. It's just the motions are a little delayed, but we'll be.
Got it.
We'll be good. We're flexible here on this show. As we've established from the outset.
Yeah.
And Kelly says here in the comment, he says, I love that connection. I'm living a life based on the same thing, purpose connected through a thread that I couldn't have ever planned.
Could never have planned.
Yeah. Like, so there's that. Oh, and there's a lot of chocolate lovers in the comments here. So I'm curious, as you think about the journey that you've been on, like, is there anything else? Are there any people? Are there any situations, circumstances, just experiences that you've had that have been like catalyzers of boldness for you? I mean, you've done some, like now you're most recently, I don't even know how all this came together, on the show Family Dinner on HBO. And it was so cool. So if anyone has HBO, you can check out that episode. It's so fun to watch, like you with your community, like just the way that you build relationships and connections with people is so sincere, and you're not someone who wastes time with stuff. Like, it's purposeful, and there's an integration that I see in your life that I think a lot of people kind of wish they had. This, yeah. So I'm curious if you want to speak to that at all.
I feel like other people could probably speak to it better than I could. I don't know. I mean, I don't wait. Like I said, one of the things I live by is to not waste time. Like if I get a feeling like something is not in alignment, if somebody is not in alignment, I don't have negative people around me. I don't do. And so whenever someone like negative does come about, or like a situation that doesn't fit does come about, it's so obvious and so clear. And I give myself full permission to just keep moving, like just keep going. Because I really do have always just had the sense that you don't know what happens tomorrow. And I just want to make every connection as authentic and like good as possible. I talked to Jonathan, who I work with at the shop, and also just my closest friend for as long as I can remember. So we talk about all the time just the dominoes, like dominoes as people. So like met this person, so then I met this person, so then I met this person, so then I met that person. And like just how everything clicks and how you don't know. It just, I mean, this whole conversation, I feel like just keeps going back to you don't know the purpose of a thing until you don't know till you know.
Yeah.
Even the hard stuff, even the bad stuff, you don't know till you know. You never burn a bridge because you don't know till you know. And that's just how I've lived. I have definitely not like none of this has been done in isolation. There's always been a catalyst to something, a person who mentioned this thing, and then I responded to this email, and then this happened. So, I mean, basically, I'm made of luck. I mean, I don't know.
Just walking synchronicity is what it is.
I'm just walking synchronicity. I am a 4-leaf clover. I'm trying to like make it sound like not like real humble, but that's just who I am.
Well, one of my favorite stories about you is, I know we were going to talk about this, is how you even came into this work in the first place. Because as you said, it's not like you grew up in a family of people that were in the food industry or people that were entrepreneurs, or like you didn't have any model for any of this. And the interesting thing to me is that you were working, what job were you working when you had this moment that completely changed your life, where a piece of trash ultimately turned into a sign?
I had been working at Under Armour for a lot of years. Not a lot of years, a few years. Like I said, everything was 3 years, 2-3 years. I always joke that this has to work out because I'm completely unemployable at this point. I had been working at Under Armour for a few years, and then the program that I was working on was a nonprofit outreach. And I decided that I really just loved it. It was working with kids, nutrition, fitness, and I wanted to continue doing that. Under Armour had cut the funding for that particular program, and I decided to leave and continue to pursue that. So that's what I did. And in doing so, I was floundering a little bit, like just kind of throwing as much against the wall as I could and then like seeing what would stick. And one of the things that I threw against the wall was helping to create like vegan menu options for restaurants, local restaurants. And I was at that time working with the Black Olive. The Black Olive used to be a cafe market in Fells Point, Baltimore. So like kind of on the water down adjacent to the harbor. And I had designed a, which by the way, no chef experience, no cooking experience. Again, I don't know what I was thinking. I don't know who I thought I was, that I was going to like go into this great restaurant and like, I'm going to make menu options for you and I'm going to show you how to make them. Like just, I can't say I recommend doing it the way that I have. But anyhow, I was working at this event and this whole time there was this postcard that was on the floor flipped over. So just like the white back of postcard size piece of paper on the floor. The whole night I saw it, never picked it up, never moved it. No one else picked it up. No one else moved it. There was dinner service all night, people walking around all night. And then it wasn't until the very end of the night that I was like, let's clean this up. Let's pick this up. Picked it up, and the opposite side was an advertisement for raw chocolate classes, like for chocolate making classes. And I thought like maybe this would somehow like help with my business and like what I'm trying to build here and what I'm doing. And I'll just like go and take the class. And that was in June of 2012. And then Pure Chocolate by Jinji started in September of 2012. So just like 2-3 months later. I don't waste time, Rachel. You know this. I don't waste time. 3 months later, my dad had retired from working for the government, like 40 year or like 35, 40 years for the government. He needed something to do. I needed help. He had experience with finance and project planning and that kind of thing. And so he was hugely helpful with all of that stuff, continues till this day. I barely know how to cash a check. I learned that. He's away for a month and I had to do like all of the finances for the last month. And I would go into the bank like, I think this goes into this account and I didn't bring my license with me, so I can't check anything. Can you just deposit this so nothing bounces? I don't. But that's how it started. And now, so what I've always told that story, it's always felt like just a very cool story, which it is, like just this very cool story of being in the right place at the right time and just like moving forward. But now it's a spark. Like, that was for me to find, that was for me to do. That was the spark to start that. Like, I had done whatever enough work just like in my life, like it was finally just time to meet this chapter of my life. You know, like how you meet like your person, like if you are in a relationship or married and you just know that you're working toward each other. Like I have a friend that says, it's not your work to go and find the river, but it's your work to just build the reservoir. So like you're both just fortifying through various experiences, various travel, various this and this and this, so that when you meet, it's just like, it works, you know? And that's how I look at it now. Like, I had done whatever I needed to do to be ready to embark on this this chocolate journey.
Yeah. And there's so much there, and there's several comments that I want to share that people have dropped in. Like, one is, you know, hold on a second, made out of, oh, Kelly goes, LOL, made of luck, nope, the way you are draws the right stuff and people to you. You just like had that, right? And there were a couple other, I don't know where the feed is. Hold on a second. There we go. Comments. There we go. Toby says one of the best things that knowing you're in the right place at the right time is understanding that you have people in your corner who are references for you, who will have your back and who will help you on your journey because you are intrinsically connected to them. It's like this deep, like, knowing and feeling. And I remember when I met you in 2014, I was like, I just started a blog and I'm like, hey, can I interview you and take pictures of chocolate? And can I write your story on my blog? And then it was like, I was like a disciple for Jinji chocolate. Anybody I would talk to that would listen, I'd be like, you just need to go and eat this. And then you would have people come in and be like, how did you find out about this? Rachel, because I won't stop. It's a thing. But I think, you know, to your point, so much of what I hear in your story is just this openness to be available. I think so many of us, myself included, try to orchestrate everything to be a certain way. And we think, if I have all the steps mapped out, once I'm totally ready, once I feel totally prepared, once I know step 78, then I'll do the thing. And not until then. I won't do the thing until I'm 100% confident that I have all the potential like scenarios worked out, all the detours and the tangents figured out. I'm not going to do it. And I think so many people miss out on, one, the opportunity to feel alive, and two, an opportunity to trust and bet on themselves, because we're always waiting for something more to come along to tell us that now is the time and that we're the person.
100%. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. We're opening a new shop in a little bit. And like along the way, we've had to do a like business plan. And it's been the most hilarious exercise, because it just has made me think back to starting this all those years ago And if I would have thought at all, no one asked me for a business plan. If anyone, I mean, there's no way I would have even started. Like, I wouldn't have even gotten started. And then, like, when we were moving into Belvedere, which is Belvedere Square Market, where our shop is now, where Rachel and I met, I was talking to these guys, these like businessmen, about, opening our shop and how much they were going to contribute and what we were going to do and like all of this. And I remember specifically to this day sitting at that table and saying to them, like, listen, I have zero money. I don't like, this conversation is like misguided. I have zero money. But what I can tell you is bet on me and it will be the best thing that you have done. Mm-hmm. And that's the only thing, like, that is the hill that I will die on in this life. Because I just know that, like, I always operate with the assumption that I don't know anything. Like, I don't like to put pen to paper on things. I don't like to, like, plan in advance, because I just feel like little things, small things, big things, huge things, nothing is as good. It's going to be so much better than what I think that it's going to be. Mm-hmm. And I don't like people putting me in a hole and making me write things down. So I'm like, I don't know, like, maybe we'll have a circus in here. I don't know. Like, so it's been the most hilarious thing, the stuff that I've written down about this new venture, because, like, I just want to tell people just to trust me. It's fine. It's going to be so good. I just basically think things are going to be great forever.
I love it. Kelly goes, that's a heck of an elevator pitch. Listen.
It's a horrible elevator pitch. Nobody do anything that I'm saying. It's a horrible elevator pitch. It will be such an awkward elevator ride. Don't say this.
Well, okay,
it only works for me.
Well, I remember that though too. When I was starting my business in 2019, there were a couple, like, and this isn't a stereotype, but this is what happened. There were a couple men who were probably old enough to be my dad, that when I said what I was going to be doing, leaving my full-time corporate job of 13 years, and they said, like, very seriously, well, what's your business plan? And I was like, oh, I said, my plan is to get business. I swear to you. That's what I said. I said, my plan is to get business. My plan is to find people who pay me for what I do. That's my plan. That's about it. That's all. That's what I got. I still to this day don't have a written business plan. I've been doing this for 4 years, and I'm like, right? Doors are opening that I didn't even know were there. Getting connected to people. Now, I'm to your point, like, we're both working hard. So it's like, yeah. We're both showing up, doing the work, getting the knowledge and insight and training and support and network and whatever that we need to get to be successful. It's not like we're just like, let's see what happens. Like, we're sort of, let's see what happens, but we're like very intentional and focused when we decide we're going to do something. Yeah. And we're like, to your point of the win, I'm like, I'm going to flipping figure this out. Yeah. Because I'm the kind of person who figures stuff out. Yeah. And not figuring this out is not in my repertoire. So it's like, to your point, though, it's a trusting in yourself, which is really hard, especially when you have other people doubting you. Like, it's really easy when other people are expressing concern and doubt. I mean, I had people asking me this a month before I left my job. They were like, what do you do? So I literally, people say, so people are going to, like, pay you, like, you'll be able to make enough money doing that? I'm thinking to myself, I do not know why that is your concern, but like, you know what I'm saying? I'm like,
totally. Totally. Are you going to pay my mortgage? Is that why you want to know?
How is this relevant to you? I'm just letting you know this because you asked me what I do, and I'm telling you I'm about to do something different. And so, like,
right.
please doubt me. Oh, I love when people doubt me. I'm like, oh,
Right.
oh. You don't
I think that
I
for
can do
me
this?
too, like the idea of failure just doesn't sound that bad to me. Like that, I
Hmm.
mean, that sounds really like entitled to say, but like the idea of it not working out means, like, to me, that means, so you mean I'm just going to start again? You mean I'm just going to, like, I'm going to wait tables and I'm going to figure it out and I'm going to, like, do what I've done before? Like, the idea of it. So so this new space we're moving in is probably 5 times. It's actually almost 10 times the size of the shop that we're in now. Um, for reference, good people of Unmute Yourself, we started in 80 square feet of space, and the new shop that we're opening is 750 square feet of space. And the thought like, so then people are like, well, are you nervous about it? Like, are you nervous about having that space? And what'll happen if you, and I'm just like, I want to stop people right there. Like, right there, just stop right there. What happens if what? If what? If no, if all of a sudden nobody comes and then I have like this big space I'm gonna ride my roller skates through, like, what's gonna, I don't know, I guess I'll close and I guess I'll do something else. I mean, it's just like, I think that I just look at life a little bit differently. And it doesn't say that I don't have responsibilities. I have a son, I have a house, I have a marriage, I have, there are things, but I just look at things differently. I just think that it's going to be successful.
Yeah. And it's based in so many different things, right? It's like that your resourcefulness, your track record, your gumption,
Yeah.
your trust in yourself, the future, why your work, the purpose that you feel towards your work. It's like you don't come by arriving at that place accidentally.
You don't. And I've had a 40-year track record of every day succeeding. I'm still here, It's like, it's every time that there's been something insurmountable, every time something's felt so hard or so painful, it's not still happening, whatever it was. It's just, I guess, like, trust that everything is temporary and everything passes.
Yeah.
So take the good with the bad. The good will pass just like the bad will pass. It always has and it always will. And that's just life.
Yeah. Yeah. Kelly comments here. There's a couple. Kelly says, I don't know if you know it, Jinji, but all the stuff you're saying is based on a growth mindset. It's extremely rare to have a combination of courage and resourcefulness and know-how.
I did not know that, Kelly.
Boom. Trifecta. Kelly's dropping the trifecta on you. And then Tom says, I told my sons all the time, go fail.
It's true. That's true.
If
you know that you're loved, like, if like, Tom, I bet this is relevant for you. Like, if your sons know that you love them, like, that's the ultimate thing, right? So, like, you can just fail, you can succeed, you can do anything in life as long as you know you're supported and loved. Like, who cares? What's the worst that can happen then?
Yeah. Yeah. It's and often what we're doing is to get love. Like, a lot of the times a motivation for why we do a lot of what we do is because we think there's going to be love or acceptance or peace or freedom or something on the other side of it. And we don't realize that if we already have that, and that's the thing, is like, if everything just goes to crap tomorrow or whatever, there's a sense of being centered and grounded and knowing that regardless of what happens, you are still whole and you will be okay.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
There's a piece, and
Totally.
Kelly's waiting on your book, by the way. So there's
Don't tell anybody what I've said here.
Too late. Sorry. Toby says, now Alex going to say something here. Toby says, she's like, you're not the only person who doesn't live with a plan or on a plan or wants a plan in life. I'm wholly open to the adventure of opportunity. And that mindset allows me to be very inquisitive. And Toby's very inquisitive and curious and just got me a bonsai tree that's now in my backyard that you'll have to come over and see. It's very pretty.
Cool.
I think I named her Bonnie the bonsai. So, but, I think so much of this, when I think about unmuting yourself, so much of it is living a life of courage. And courage looks different for different people. But when I think of courage, I think it's being in a space where you could otherwise totally shut down, give up, check out, step out, and you keep showing up. And you keep showing up and you take a risk and you try a thing and you don't have the certainty that it's going to work. But you believe in it strongly enough that you keep betting on yourself and betting on what you believe you're meant to do in this life. And I feel like when we show up that way from a place of service, from a place of wanting to have a positive impact, wanting to make the world a better place in some way, that things tend to work out. I mean, that's been my experience. It's not easy to do. It's so much easier to just be like, this is predictable and comfortable. And sometimes that is a season of life we're in. I mean, I was in a corporate job for 13 years, I wasn't ready to do this thing I'm doing now. But it got to the point where there were enough of these signs, right? Like, there's so many things that kept happening over it. And sometimes we ignore them because we're like in denial. We're like, no, I don't need to make that change. And it's like another sign comes up. And then something else comes up. And then something else. Like, this was spring of 2019. And it was actually this month, like next week, 4 years ago, when I made the decision when I told my company I was leaving. And it was April of 2019, and Bill and I were like at church sitting in a sermon, and the pastor was talking about how when like a bug sheds its exoskeleton, it can't go back into it. It's like once that cicada shell is shed, the cicada is not going back into that shell. Like, it literally can't. And so for me, I had this experience, and I think if we're open to it, each of us can, where we have a moment where we, like, when we know something differently, when we've changed some way inside, when we've had a transformation or a metamorphosis or some type of catalytic moment happen that nudges us or gets our attention and tells us, like, hey, like, this is a thing I want you to notice. And, I think 6 weeks later, I told my boss, who I'd worked for since I was an intern, 16 years earlier, that I was leaving with no business plan to go start my own business, And I did not see a lot of things coming. Next song is about I didn't see it coming moments, but it's like, I didn't see it. I didn't see all these things coming that were going to happen, but I've stayed resilient, resourceful, and curious. And I feel like you've done the same thing.
Try. Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure. Yeah.
That's what I see you doing.
Well, because I think that I can have goals, and I think that I can have things that I want to do, but I don't think that I can dictate how I'm going to get there. So that means that I'm required to stay curious, and I'm required to pay attention and stay open to whatever comes my way, because and that makes life exciting. Every day it makes life exciting, because it's like, you never know when the next person what message the next person is carrying. You never know, what answering an email is going to lead to. Like, there's just been too much evidence in my life that you just never know. Anything from picking up a piece of trash on the floor to meetings. You just never know. So the promise is that you'll get there if you can stay tuned in and like you said, with just really good intentions and being of service and being helpful as much as possible. Then the promise is that you'll get there. But the trouble happens when you start trying to like dictate that journey by yourself and just like create and contrive this path that it's just futile. Like that's not going to work. You just have to pay attention and I love the phrase ready luck. Just be ready for it when it comes your way. So being kind, setting up, building your house so that you're ready to go.
Yeah. I'll close with a thought that I feel is connected to that I was seeing a voice therapist a few years ago because I was struggling with some vocal cord stuff. And something he said to me that I wrote down instantly because I was like, oh, this has so many layers of meaning beyond what you just applied it to. And he was talking about like when we speak, you know, a lot of time there can be this forcing, right, of how we're talking. And we like really exert a lot of effort and put a lot of strain on our vocal cords when we're speaking, when we're singing. And the phrase he said, voice is released, not pushed. And I think about that about life too. Like anything of significance and like great magnitude that's happened in my life has not been because I elbowed my way into it. It happened because I was open and available and had some kind of, you know, like favor in my life that like, this is meant for you and here it is. And I find that gives me a greater sense of peace and freedom about how my life's going to unfold. Is that it's like, there's another thing I have downstairs, my first floor. It's a butterfly. It says, allow the unfolding. And I feel like that's like everything that we're connecting to in this conversation today, which we talk about unmuting possibilities. It's like, be available, show up, do the things you need to do, but like be available and don't diminish or dismiss anything. Like anything could be the catalyst that shifts something for you in a way you never saw coming. And it's exciting. You know, it's exciting. So
yeah,
I want to say thank you so much for being here today. And if people want to learn more about you, where can they go?
We're on Instagram at Jinji Chocolate. Our website is the same, jinjichocolate.com. Yeah, go there. Find me
go there. Buy chocolates. Get the peanut butter stuffed figs and the truffles and Bill's favorite, which is a medjool date stuffed with cacao nibs, honey, and sea salt dipped in dark chocolate. There's so many things that are so delicious, and like you just need to know. You just need to have this in your life. And if you ever come to Baltimore, you just have to go there. I don't have any other words except for that. So Tom Doherty followed. Tom, you're going to be drooling. I'm sorry you're all the way in California, but things do ship. So just a heads up, it's possible. So with that, I just want to say thank you so much for being here. Thank you everyone who joined us for the show today, whether you're joined us for the show itself or for the replay. Hopefully you're walking away inspired to be more curious, attentive, open, alert, and playful in your life, and just watch what comes in and stay connected to it and curious about it, and watch what happens in your life. So thank you all so much. We will see you in 2 weeks. We did back-to-back shows today because I want to take off for the holiday next week, but we will be back the week of June 5th. So come back for that. We'll see you next time. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.